seen and I've heard people say during worship session that I don't know this person, so I'm not sure I want to really worship at this point. Or why is it this person that's taking worship? Or why is it not this also person? This person I don't flow, and so on and so forth. For some people, it is during the time for worship that the gist is always so sweet to talk about, right? So instead of lifting up holy hands or singing along as songs are being raised, what we are doing is gisting and talking and probably just doing one thing or the other. And I will forget the fact that worship is a thing between you and God. It's a you and God thing. It's between you and your Father. It's between you and your lover. Between you and your maker. It has nothing to do with who is leading or not leading, who is singing or not singing. I'm not displacing the fact of worship leaders, growing and bringing people into an experience of God. This is very, very important as worship leader. But then you get to a point in your walk with God, you get to a point in your Christian walk where how you worship God is not dependent on who is singing or not singing, on whether you like the minister or not like the minister, whether it's a familiar face or not a familiar face. Following the law of first mention, worship was first mentioned in Genesis number 22. We see God speaking to Abraham and telling him to sacrifice his only son Isaac, whom he loves. And Abraham never told his wife. He left his wife in the dark, took his son Isaac and 2 other servants to the Mount Moriah. And a point came where Abraham had to leave behind his servants and said to them, I and the lad will go yonder to worship. There is a point in our worship, and I'm not just saying worship alone as just singing, but also as a lifestyle where you have to, leave others behind and you just ascend alone. You are alone. You must get to a point where you have to be alone. The first set of people to lose when it comes to worship are those that are closest to you, because they're the ones who has the ability to distract you more. And don't forget the ones that you feel are not so close. I remember being a point where, worship is going on in church, or someone is going on, or probably God gives you an instruction to carry out, and then you reach out to someone close to you about an instruction, and then because they love you so much, they talk you out of the instructions, or you just keep dragging and keep dragging and keep dragging, or probably you're really lost in worship, you're lifting up your hands, and then someone just taps you, and then you're like, oh God, why me? So you must learn to, let go of those that are closest to you. So there's places where you have to attain. You see it in the life of Jacob, you see it in the life of David, you see it in the life of Moses, in Elijah. People that God will do great things with, they get to a point where they are alone. God was speaking to Jesus was speaking to the Samaritan woman in John chapter number 4, from verse 21. He's talking about that, how they worship. You get to a point where you worship in this mountain or not in this mountain. And then he said something to the Samaritan woman. He says, you worship, you know not what. There's a way that you know God. When you know God, there's a posture you take in your worship, in your life with Him. What is it? It has nothing to do with the environment. I know that sounds are instrumental to making us ascend, but what are the times where there were no sounds? In the days of in the days back then, when we had just our hands and our voices, the presence of God, the Spirit of the Lord was still manifest in our midst. So let's not get to a point where our worship to God, our service to the Lord, our instructions are people based, are not relationship based, are not love based. I said earlier, I'm not displacing the fact or the point where worship leaders have to, put in the work, because you can't take people to where you have not been. In worship, experience is key. Experience is key. Because if you have not experienced something, how do you want other people to not experience what you have not experienced? Not possible. So, people of God, let's allow ourselves to be yielded to God in our worship. Surrender. Know how to surrender. One thing that people don't know how to do is surrender. Don't look left or right. When who's looking at you, who's not looking at me. No, it's none of your business. Shut your eyes to distractions. Be focused and worship.